Today on Amusing Minds, we talk to Travis Buck. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to introduce us. We have Ben, Rodney, and myself, your Amusing Minds. Today we talked to Travis about, well, he had a story going into space. Now, this is, this leads me to a few questions. How could you smuggle things into space, like as an astronaut?
I mean, there's probably plenty of room in the suit. Those suits are pretty baggy, right? And so if it's something small, then just stuff it in a pocket. I'm sure spacesuits have pockets.
Huh? Yeah.
I'd be surprised if they didn't. I only know like a little bit of the story. I haven't heard the full story. All I know is that it's a corned beef sandwich and it went to space. And I don't know anything else. But just knowing that a corned beef sandwich went to space, now I want to know everything about it.
I want to know what it tasted like.
God. It's the curiosity. It's I think weird history stories are driven by learning weird history, driven by curiosity. And if you told me that a corned beef sandwich went to space, I want to know how that happened. I would be going to Google right away. But I abstained, and I saved myself for Travis to tell me the story and tell me how a corned beef sandwich went to space, because I'm just entranced by this idea. Completely.
The idea of smuggling something into space in itself sounds kind of cool. Like, I don't know the process of which one has to go through to get to space, but I imagine in my head it's not as rigorous as like going to the airport. Like, once you've made it to NASA, they're like, yeah, we trust that guy. So like, kind of wonder how that goes down, Yeah.
It's a curiosity. It's like, you kind of think that someone would notice, like, hey, I brought my pet hamster here. It's the hamster's name's Pamster. Yeah, hey, don't look in my bag. Do you smuggle that in your luggage? Or is it like just trying to hire drugs?
You just say it's for an experiment, because no matter what, you're going to space and you bring whatever you want, and they're like, what? Why do you have a baseball? It's for an experiment. Like okay.
It's for science. I'm going to throw it at a meteor, and I'm going to knock the meteor out of its trajectory.
No, you just say it's G14 classified.
Yeah, but all I know is I'm going to be super hungry because Ben said pastrami or whatever sandwich. Corned beef. God. So I just want to apologize to listeners or viewers, because if this delves into a food discussion, it's my fault. I'm super hungry right now. I apologize.
I mean, food, space. That's what we're going to end up talking about.
It's true. Food and space. Get ready. Put your helmets on. Check your oxygen levels. Make sure your seat belts are tightened. Your tray's in the upright position and locked and ready to go. Because after this break, get ready for space and Travis. Today we're coming back from our break, and we're talking to Travis. Travis, we hear that you have a lovely, some might say, prepared piece of history for us. It sounds delicious.
I do.
Please tell us about
I do.
this.
All right. So I don't know where to start, but I guess the first sandwich, or the first corned beef sandwich in space. That's what you guys want to hear about. So on the Gemini 3 mission in 1965, which Gemini was between the Mercury missions and Apollo, kind of the step towards how do we get men to the moon now that we've gotten men into orbit. So the main mission, or the main focus of that mission, was just to test the maneuverability, but also to test different types of foods and just how they would react in space, because it's something new. So obviously, most of those things are like little pouches of pureed junk. So John Young and Gus Grissom were the two astronauts assigned to that mission. And so during one of the tests, where they're just handing back food, thinking, okay, take a bite, let us know your thoughts, John Young says, corned beef sandwich. And Gus kind of like laughingly thinks, oh, they got a pouch of something that tastes like corned beef sandwich, reaches over, it's a corned beef sandwich because he'd smuggled it. John Young had smuggled this inside of his spacesuit. And I don't know if they had wrapped in foil or plastic or what. But so when Gus rips this open, takes a bite out of it, pieces of rye bread float into the cockpit and start getting into the like the instruments and things like that. And so obviously they're like, well, we should probably not do this. So they wrap it back up, put it away, don't mention a word, until obviously they come back to Earth. They're found by the crew, and they, obviously after every mission, they check everything to make sure that everything functioned properly. And they're like, what are all these crumbs and stuff in the cockpit? And so they had to explain themselves. So the first corned beef sandwich also became the last corned beef sandwich in space because they got in some major trouble for that. But they were allowed to play again. Obviously.
Oh, well, that was good.
How in the world did you come upon this information? How did you learn this?
I'm trying to think where the first time I heard it, but it could have just been one of the times I fell down a Wikipedia rabbit hole, which I tend to do. I'll start reading. I'll be like, I want to know more about Apollo 13. Then that'll mention something about Apollo 14. Then I'll be like, all right, I got to read about Apollo 14. Oh, that mentioned something about Gemini. Well, I got to read about the Gemini missions. Oh, wait, what did Gus Grissom do? Oh, and then you find out, okay. So, I don't know. I go on these, just find
binges.
Stuff.
You go on these binges where it's just like, ooh, yeah.
So what you're saying is if you want to find weird history, Wikipedia is the rabbit hole you go down.
And it's funny that like when I was in college, they used to rip on Wikipedia saying it was, you never use it as a source. And that's true. You don't use that as your source. But you can find some really good information on there. And as long as at the end of that information, you see a little blue thing with a number, and you click that number, and it takes you to the bottom, and you go, oh, yeah, that sounds like I can trust that source. And, so Wikipedia has its sources cited, so you can use it as your jumping point. That's kind of what I do. And then if I want to know more, I can find, space.com probably has the best write-up about this, and he even has a photo. Apparently the piece of bread that went into space is now preserved in resin and on display somewhere.
That's awesome.
That's so
great.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's
trying to think. Yeah, no, I'm like, how do you come back from bread? A beautiful sandwich. Well, I mean, it's funny that you mentioned that they didn't say anything about it to the actual mission control while they were up there, because it's like, I'll ask forgiveness as opposed to permission. It's a lot easier and nicer.
Right.
I mean, the food must have been really horrible if he wanted to smuggle a full sandwich onto the space shuttle.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I think I've tried. I think it was like a lasagna paste or something like that they'd had sent into space. Oh, no bien.
I would imagine it would be something similar to like MREs, though.
Oh yeah,
like I've had some pretty decent MREs. So like you get one of those cherry cobblers. I bet that could go in space.
But remember, whatever you're eating comes out of like a toothpaste tube, because so like the eggs, the old eggs. I don't know if you remember. Vegetarian eggs.
There was a mini documentary about the guy that smells for NASA. Because anything you bring onto a space station or a space shuttle, if it has a smell, it's giving off particles, and his whole job is to smell things to make sure that it's not going to to make sure it's not going to compromise the air system inside. Isn't that right, Travis?
Awesome. Yeah.
Just had to happen to have a prop handy, so
that's perfect.
I didn't know that, but that's interesting. I wouldn't be surprised, because last thing you'd want to do is take something up into the International Space Station, and now it smells like that for which I heard the International Space Station does stink. I heard it doesn't smell too good.
Sweat.
Like it kind of smells like it kind of smells like the men's restroom outside the gym. The locker room. Yeah.
So do you think their shuttle smelled like pastrami for the entire mission?
That would be perfect.
I don't know, probably, but I don't know. I've read extensively about that one. They kept their helmets on for most of when they re-entered and everything, because of something that they perceived might have gone wrong. So they didn't want to asphyxiate, so they kept the helmets on. So I don't know. I'm getting a little too technical, but
so I know the pastrami was a good story, but I know for a fact you have better history stories. Like, especially when you found that gem of Olga.
Oh, yeah, Pearl and Olga.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to tell our audience a little bit about that story? For those who don't know, we created Travis wrote up a beautiful script for a real life, I don't know, what would you call it? Subterfuge, sabotage, kind of assassination. Yeah. There you go.
Assassination attempt, yeah. It was a real life incident that happened in New York City in 1946, I think, in December. I can't remember the exact names. Actually, wait, no, I can't. Pearl Lusk and no, I can't remember the other one. But so there was a woman named Olga. Pearl. Pearl was, I can't even remember the age, but she was very young, like maybe not even 18 yet. And she had moved out to New York City, was wanting to live the dream, you know. Got a job working at like a Macy's or a JCPenney type of place, thinking, oh, this is wonderful. And then as soon as Christmas was over, it's like, bye, you were just seasonal help. But, you know, at the time they didn't tell people that. So she's, you know, thinking, oh crap, I'm gonna have to move back home with my family. And so this man approaches her on the subway thinking, you know, oh, she's, you know, crying, you know, I'm gonna ask her what's wrong. She tells him and he thinks, oh, okay, I'm gonna and he says, you know, I'm a private detective. We're trying to catch this jewel thief. Has been stealing jewels by tying them around her waist. And we haven't been able to catch her, but the way we're gonna catch her is we've got this X-ray camera in the box. And you follow her with this, pull the string, and it's going to take a photo. We'll see the jewels, and that's what we'll use as evidence, right? So when she goes to do this, she pulls the string, and here's a loud explosion, and Olga's leg is blown off. And Pearl finds out that there's a sawed-off shotgun inside. And what it turns out was the guy posing as the private detective was actually Olga's estranged husband, who had threatened her numerous. She had reported him to the police numerous times. The police didn't do anything about it, didn't take her seriously. So he decides, I'm going to pack this shotgun in a box, trick some young, impressionable girl who was reading at the time, what do you call it, a little like dime novel of Perry Mason. So that's how he kind of thought, you know, detective work. So yeah, anyways, but that story always interested me because, you know, he got caught, obviously got in some trouble, but Pearl and Olga actually became friends afterwards because Olga knew that Pearl didn't do it, you know, maliciously. She had no intent. It just happened to happen. So
wow.
And that's a completely true story. It's really weird.
I was going to ask Travis, was this another like falling down the rabbit hole of Wikipedia or how did you find this one?
That was actually a TV show. There was a pretty good show on that, and I can't think of what it was called now. And actually, it was funny because one of the women on set said, I saw this on an episode of blah, blah, blah. And I said, that's where I first heard about it. So, but yeah, it was a show where this guy used to host it. It might have been called History's Mysteries or something like that. But it was a guy would host it and he would they would just talk about like weird incidents. And then they'd have like four people, the same four people dressed in like really cheap costumes acting out the thing with really good camera work though. It looked great, but like you could tell that the guy's like wearing a dime store mustache and it's the same guy who played Abe Lincoln the last time and now he's playing George Washington and, you know,
like drunk history.
Like every shot's like, right. And every shot's like a guy just sitting there at the desk with a candle in front and the camera's really out of focus. And then the camera's just moving across like this while he's watching the camera. Yeah. I'm going to get in trouble with whoever's a fan of that show. They're going to be like, don't make fun of the production values on that show. Then they're going to see the things I make and be like, your stuff's no better. And I'm like, I know it's not.
I've decided this episode's going to be about Wikipedia and how you can fall down the rabbit hole.
It's a fun rabbit hole to fall down.
Now, I know you found those off Wikipedia, but what's the most disturbing factoid you would say you found off Wikipedia? You're like, what the hell?
I don't know if I could necessarily narrow it down to the worst thing, but I've definitely fallen into a lot of rabbit holes of missing person cases, murders, reading about like the Night Stalker. Woohoo, that's fun at night. Like one that really fascinated me recently, I can't remember the names of the two girls, but they disappeared in Panama while on a hiking trip. And there were like 80 photos taken in the middle of the night of mostly darkness and only a few showed like a little bit of detail. And there was just a lot of like conspiracy theories going around. Did like a drug gang get them? Did they get eaten by animals? And as a chimpanzee was running through the forest, was he accidentally taking pictures? Which all these things kind of sound a little crazy until I heard one person offered up probably the best explanation, which was they were probably using the camera, taking photos, of actually using the flash, trying to alert the search parties that were out, using the flash, hoping that would, they'd see that, and that people thought that they probably had fallen, either both of them broken a leg or one of them did, and, were unable to move and get back out. So, but like, those kind of, when you read a story that doesn't have a solution or doesn't tell you what actually happened, for me, it's like, I can't put it down until I feel like there's some kind of resolution to it. So,
yeah, I think that's that general curiosity that we all have, that we want to know that, hey, it's not all scary out there. There's a happy ending somewhere, or even just an ending, even if it isn't happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes it's not necessarily just a story or like a story, but information, which is right along those lines of that Wikipedia rabbit hole. You sometimes you learn like a little piece of information and you're like, well, I have to know, like, I really need to know what this encompasses. A few episodes ago, we were talking about the whole deities and all that being connected. And that's actually one of those things I stumbled upon in the Wikipedia rabbit hole, is the correlations between the two. So it's very interesting to see that we have this internet source of information where like it all kind of gets compiled, and it makes it a lot easier for us to navigate. But I also wonder if that makes it dangerous for us, as far as like how easy it is to connect things. I don't know. Have you guys ever heard of, what is it, 6 Degrees to Kevin Bacon?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So very much along those thoughts. I wonder how dangerous we'll get, or how dangerous you get when you spiral down that hole.
I mean, you connect. If the more dots you connect, then the closer you get to conspiracy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We're back at it again.
Pizzagate. Return of the Frog's gay. Telling you.
I actually want to go back to the sandwich in space thing for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
If Travis, I have a question for you. If you could smuggle anything onto a mission to space, you're going to space, you're an astronaut, and you get to go to space for the first time and go on this mission, and you know that you have just enough room in your spacesuit to smuggle one thing onto that mission, what would it be and why?
That is really a difficult one. First thing that came to my mind was my cat, just because, I like her being around, and that, but I feel like that would be abusive as hell. Putting a cat in zero G.
Sorry, my brain
Takes you to a dark place.
Man. But yeah, I don't know. Besides that, I feel like I'd be too worried about my own safety or getting in trouble with NASA to be smuggling anything in my spacesuit.
No consequences. There's no consequences, no negative outcomes for anything that you bring on.
Yeah, this is just daydreaming.
Yeah, you guys ask tough questions.
That's right. Watch out. 60 minutes. Here comes Amusing Minds.
Yeah. Geez. I'm very not a material guy. I can't think of anything I really want to take on the spaceship.
Okay. If I could take one thing into space, it would probably be... okay. If I could take one food into space to take with me, I would probably take a Taco Bell burrito. No. But it's got to be the grilled cheese burrito. I don't know if you guys have had this before,
Yes.
but the grilled cheese burrito is pretty amazing. And that crispy cheese on the outside. And I know the grease and the oil from the Taco Bell burrito would just go everywhere. And it would smell like farts and burritos for the entire mission. But it would all be worth it because that burrito tastes so good. And I would prefer it over astronaut food any day.
Ben would have his own propulsion at that point. Just
Hey, if you got to get around the space station somehow.
That's the secret.
yeah. I was gonna say that's why they have like their air filters going all the time just to get out the fart smell.
So let's do that. Let's do Let's do that. Let's do your food item. What would be the food item that you would bring on a space mission? Let's do that.
Actually, it's funny. It's funny that you just changed it because I actually came up with an idea. I'd say Sandra Bullock, and not for the reasons you think, but because did you see her in Gravity?
Yeah.
Did you see her in Gravity? I mean, God, if anything went wrong, you just mentioned if anything went wrong, you'd have your own propulsion system. Well, if anything went wrong, she'd get my ass back home. That's how I'd look at it. I'd say, okay, but I don't know how I'd get her in my spacesuit. That'd be a pretty big set at that point, you know.
I was gonna say at that point, she's another person going up there with you.
Yeah.
Rodney.
Which that's what I would,
Rodney.
you know, if the cat were to go with me, I'd want her to have her own, you know, spacesuit.
Oh, little
But
cat
could you
suit.
imagine a cat in its own little cat spacesuit? It'd be awesome.
So that children's book we're messing with, we actually have a cat in a spacesuit. That's so awesome.
For those that don't know, Rodney is working on a children's book.
Awesome.
We're doing a commission for someone, so it's not of my own creation. But yeah, it's just funny because a cat in a spacesuit. It is cute. But food wise, I think I would probably take Jell-O. I just think it would be fun. That's it. There's not much more thought into it.
I just want to be a child.
Yeah, because like imagine Jell-O in zero G, like just a ball of Jell-O, and you just like slap it, and it just
Wow.
yeah, it's
You may be able to get a government grant to actually test this experiment. You never know.
I'll have to look into it. I'm sure they already have.
Oh,
I'll have to do some research first. Larry?
Like the actual astronaut up there makes the Jell-O, and it's like, all right, give it a, you know, slaps it and like writes down, you know, how many vibrations it make per second, how many traveled back and forth. You know?
This
You
bad
never know.
boy
It could
right
be
here.
very
This
important.
bad boy.
She jiggles for days. This is the best Jell-O. She jiggles for days. Give her a slap.
Hell yeah.
I would say my food, I'd want to go with a noodle type food. Like if I could, this would be messy as hell, but like a spaghetti Alfredo. So you've got the the creamy white sauce going everywhere with the noodles looking like space worms. Just, I don't know. It would be interesting to see what it looks like because you already took Jell-O, so you know Jell-O's out the door. Although, oh man, a good flaming dish like something that was on fire that you had to
But
put
you would
out.
have to put it on
Watching
fire
this little
in-
fireball.
I'm pretty sure out
So
of
would you
every
set it-
space movie, they always say fire bad in space.
That's only if the oxygen's
gonna-
going and it hits the tank.
But are you gonna light it before you put it in your spacesuit, or after? Like you're gonna
Hell
light
no.
it after it comes down, or it's
Yeah.
gonna already be like flambe? Bitches,
I'm
there
going
it is.
up there, the Human Torch, not coming back, the Human Torch.
So
Wow.
if you smuggled a sandwich onto a space mission, how would you what kind of sandwich would it be that you could erase all evidence that it ever happened? Like you know, they found a bunch of crumbs, right? And that's how they knew it had happened is because it, you know, it got everywhere. So what sandwich do you think you could take on a space mission that would leave no evidence behind and you could just get away with it scot-free?
I think I have to be a lettuce wrap, I guess. You know.
Yep. That was literally going to be my thought. I was like, a wrap, duh. There's
Yeah.
no crumbs from a wrap. I guess if you're a sloppy eater, you know, it'd be something.
But don't you have to be really careful about condiments? What if you take a bite and then a bunch of like mustard just shoots out the end and just goes everywhere? Because they're also really careful about liquids.
You just bring a corn dog is what you're saying. Just bring a corn dog and then you just
Are you saying that corn dog is a sandwich?
meats
Corn dog is not a
surrounded
sandwich.
by bread. Meat surrounded by
In that
bread.
case,
Meat
No,
surrounded by
no,
bread.
no. So here's the thing: a sandwich in the name implies a sandwiching of the object. A corn dog is dipped. Okay, it is not sandwiched. If anything, a corn dog is more likely an ice cream with a coating than a sandwich.
On a stick?
Yeah, ice creams are dipped sticks
Ice cream
in
treats.
something. Like
Ice cream
so.
treats.
So yeah, like an ice cream treat. Yeah, not an ice cream cone because there's a difference. But like a sandwich has to be flattened between two breads or in between two breads. So like a hot dog is a sandwich, but a corn dog is not.
But that also means that lettuce wrap is not a valid answer because a wrap is not a sandwich.
oh, well, unless you put two pieces of lettuce in
Yeah.
like that.
If
Okay.
anything, a lettuce wrap is more like sushi.
Kind of, I guess.
'Cause, I mean, a seaweed is seaweed is the lettuce of the sea. Come on.
Is
Like-
sushi a sandwich? Can we take sushi on the mission?
Sushi is not a sandwich.
But it's like all wrapped up in rice and
Wrap.
And
I
it's-
mean, technically, could you take pita bread, wrap it around meats? That would still count as a sandwich, correct?
pita bread.
Freaks in space.
Because technically,
Oh.
pita bread is that
Excited
bread
me.
that has a pocket,
Gyro.
right? You can put your meat, like Euro meat.
But,
You can
but
put it all
that's
in
like
there.
a taco then.
Is it though? Because
Yeah, 'cause
technically,
you're
it's
stuffing
surrounded on. It's still.
Oh no, yeah, okay, so it's kind of like a hot dog, but see the stuffing rather than the folding, the action of
So then
creation.
a hot dog can't be a sandwich.
No,
because you're stuffing a hot dog in a bun.
It's the action of creation because you're folding it in.
But are you?
I mean, you are. Really, I'm just
Sorry,
hungry now.
this conversation devolved into foods and food type things because we are all hungry.
Well, no, because we're
Yeah.
talking about sandwiches in space. That was the
Yeah,
whole.
but I'm-
That's where we started. So in order to know what a sandwich in space is, then we need to know what a sandwich is. I mean, that's just natural.
I mean, he
It's
has a
breaking
point.
down the progressive lines. So that's all it is.
I mean, haven't you guys ever wondered what would happen to a sandwich in a vacuum, or if you launched a sandwich into space? Like, don't you wonder about those things?
You know,
Wonder. Sorry, Rodney. You.
no, I was gonna say, funny enough, like the way I perceive a vacuum, like somewhere along the lines, it just in my head, it's just like it doesn't do anything to most things. Like in my head, it just doesn't
Nerd.
do much to most things because there's nothing there.
It's just kind of.
Yeah, so they just float. Like and
Yeah.
like just thinking about it, like vacuum, it just lets things float. So I'd be more interested to see liquid type things in space than any physical, like, or what is the word I'm looking for? Solid state object.
Well, a sandwich has layers, right, and different ingredients. So maybe it'll start floating apart, and what direction would it go? Would it just stay together as one thing, or would the bread just sort of float away from the meat? Travis, what do you think?
I don't know. If we're talking physics in space.
No, we're talking sandwiches in space, and that's not
Sandwiches.
quite physics.
The physics of a sandwich in space. I don't know. I mean, we're talking a foot long or just 6-inch sandwich.
Dealer's choice.
I don't know. I just think it's hilarious that you got rye breadcrumbs floating around a cockpit. That it's just you don't think about. Obviously, I don't know if they thought about it before they opened it up, but just the action of ripping it open, then taking a bite. We get a few crumbs on our lips or fall on our lap. Obviously, that's going to go around the cabin. So, what's that?
I said when you're eating too, stuff just kind of spittle and.
What do you think was going through his head when he decided, I'm going to smuggle this sandwich aboard this mission?
I'm hungry.
I don't know. I mean, I do know that, I don't know if this part of the story's verified or not, but supposedly there was a restaurant that a lot of the astronauts like to go to, and that was one of their favorite dishes was this corned beef sandwich at this particular restaurant. So I think, and obviously getting a sandwich into your spacesuit and onto a spacecraft is not just something you suddenly decide to do 5 minutes before the launch. He, as far as what I've read, it's pretty sure that like even Deke Slayton was behind it, and he's the guy who, if you've ever seen Apollo 13, no, I can't think of the actor's name now, but he was the guy running mission control,
Ed Harris?
in Houston. Ed Harris. Yeah, Ed Harris played Deke Slayton. I think it's Deke Slayton. No, not Deke Slayton. That was Gene Kranz. I'm getting the names mixed up. But Deke Slayton was another high-up guy in, NASA. So he probably had something to... They mentioned that he probably had something to do with, smuggling that in there and... because you go through so many checkpoints. Somebody knew about the corned beef sandwich on the ground, and probably NASA was nice enough not to get that person in trouble, since nothing bad happened. Luckily,
Like corned beef sandwiches have like sauerkraut on them, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
How is breadcrumbs the only thing that they found, and not? I mean, sauerkraut is not exactly
Juices?
a neat packaged thing. Like it's liquidy and pieces, and how did that not go
think-
everywhere?
I think they're lucky that I think they took 3 bites or 2 bites and were like, "This is a bad idea," and wrapped it back up.
Oh yeah, because that's cooked bread.
Yeah.
It's more or less toasted, and so you
Hey,
have the roast beef, sauerkraut, and then something else.
Are you looking up what a corned beef sandwich is?
Oh,
That's
I'm
awesome.
looking at all. I'm looking at it
Hey,
all.
So,
yeah.
but I mean, a corned beef sandwich isn't the only thing that's been smuggled into space. They've got. I think a lot of people know about the guy who played golf on the moon, but I don't know if a lot of people know that he was not supposed to do that. Golf club was, and this is the part. This is why I love these stories. Is NASA is obviously made up of a lot of nerds, right? A lot of geeks, a lot of people who know a lot about science and mathematics and things like that. But they aren't the ones who go and fly. Back in these days, it was like, okay, here's all these nerds that graduated from MIT, got all this. But we're gonna go talk to a crazy guy who, when he was 18 years old, or not even 18 yet, got his parents to sign a waiver so that he could go join up in Vietnam, fly combat missions, get shot down, come back home, become a test pilot. That's the guy we're going to strap to the rocket and launch into space, not some MIT graduate. So that's the part that I love about these stories is it's like we think of astronauts a lot of times and we think, oh, these are like godlike figures. They walked on the moon, but they're just your crazy uncle that, built something in his backyard. And he's like, I don't care if I get hurt. I'm going to see how this goes. Whee! That's how I picture it. And so that's why they're like, hey, let's take a corned beef sandwich with us because screw it, we're crazy and we love doing this stuff, And I love looking at that. And the same with the guy who took the golf club. It's like he loved golf. He always thought, God, there's almost no gravity on the moon. I could hit the longest shot up there. I want to play golf on the moon. So he talked to some engineers or MIT grads or whatever, and together with like a place that makes golf clubs, and they made him a special golf club that could telescope down. He could smuggle it in his suit. And when he got on the moon, he could take that thing out, telescope it out, and whack a few balls around. And it's like, so I love how Mission Control is probably down there like expecting them to do some experiments, and they're like watching them, through cameras or whatever. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, what the hell's he doing now? The taxpayer money for him to do this right now? Seriously?
They let the scientists do the hard work, and the pilots, they're like, hey, just make sure it gets back in one piece. That's all we ask.
If I was going to be the first person to do blank in space, I think it would be that I would want to be the first to play like 007 GoldenEye on the Nintendo 64 in space. I don't know why. That's the thing that came to me. But okay, so there's a story about a guy hitting golf balls, right? It's just a thing that he loves. Yeah. And he was the first one in space to play golf. So I don't know. If you were posed the question, if you could be the first person to do blank in space, what would it be? And my answer is play Nintendo. Because that's just the thing I would want to do.
Wow.
I would like to be the first. I'd like to be the first to play billiards in space because I'm just picturing you obviously just throw the table out the window, right? Not physically, because then you die from the vacuum of space. But just don't bring the table with you. You just bring the balls and then like just put random holes in and you just go whack, and it just goes all around the cat. It would be awesome. You just and there's no friction to stop it either. So yeah. At some point, it would become extremely dangerous, but I think it'd be fun.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was going to say, I know it sounds sick and sadistic, but part of me wants to take that golf ball that the guy had and just launch it at the earth to see how far it would go, to see if it would actually hit, to see, it would burn up before it, did any damage. But still, it would just be fun to see me launch something and just try to keep track of it and be like, oh, that's going. That's really good.
And in a billion years, aliens find one golf ball orbiting the Earth.
It hits their windshield just.
Son of
a. See, this is why we left them. This is why we left them.
This is why we don't go to that neighborhood anymore. I told you.
That's so great.
I told you to stay away from those dirty bipedals.
If there is a bad part of space, we are it though. Like we're like the Georgia. Well, I shouldn't say Georgia because Georgia's kind of cool right now. But we're like the deliverance of space, probably.
It's a little fun stuff. But first thing I would do in space, two things, but it depends. So in one situation, I think I would want to be the first person to step on another livable planet other than Earth.
Yeah.
Like that would be phenomenal. But if we're talking our capabilities now and just going out into space and doing stuff, I think it'd be pretty cool. Kind of the same lines, along the lines of Larry, except I would want to shoot a bow in space. I think that would be really cool, just to shoot a bow. But I want to attach like a super long string to it. And just boom, just like
keep going
forever. Yeah. And just see how long. What?
This goes along with your idea. All right, I'm riffing here. What if you took your bow and you tried to see how far the lunar gravity was, so you could see if you could hit yourself or hit a target? They could like circumvent the actual satellite and then just toom,
that would be neat.
Boom, Space Olympics, archery.
Imagine throwing like shot put or like, oh man. Oh wow. What is wrong with us?
The darkness.
So do you believe in aliens?
I do. Totally. Not a question about it.
Not a question, huh?
No. Honestly, I think I heard the most I can't think of the word convincing argument I heard for why we haven't been contacted or why we haven't seen any yet is something that I only understand now after watching way too much Star Trek. Is that what if we're like one of those planets where all the other species were like, they're kind of crazy and figuring things out right now, so we're gonna quarantine the crap out of them. No radio signals getting in, nothing coming out. Nobody talks to them. Just let them work it out. Once they figure out warp drive, then we'll talk to them. And so I feel like we might be in that position right now, and we're going, hey, how come nobody's listening to us? But really, there's like a shield going around that nothing can get through to us, or like, right. And maybe there is stuff getting out, and like aliens out there going, shut the hell up. We're tired of you. We don't care that you're out there. Yes, we know. SETI, fine. Shut up, SETI. We get it. It's like somebody playing their boombox in the apartment next door or something.
I think aliens exist, but I don't think they have interstellar travel. I think that the probability of there being planets with life is very, very high. I also think that the probability of other planets that have life having life that is as complex as ours, totally doable. But interstellar travel is where I cease to like. I don't believe it as much that there would be interstellar travel. But if there was interstellar travel, I know for a fact they would have figured out how to eat sandwiches on their spaceships by now.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
But okay. So the interstellar travel thing. There's another theory as far as like what you say, Ben, that they don't have it. And it's funny because I'm reading Ready Player 2 and they touch it in there. So one of the theories is instead of a sufficient technological race would go the same direction that we're kind of going. We're developing artificial intelligence, but virtual reality and the ability to simulate perfect simulations. And in this theory, the going ideology is that once you get to that level of technology, it's much safer to just simulate everything. So if you create a perfect virtual reality where you can see, smell, touch, taste, and hear on a level that would be the equivalent of reality, it would be much safer to create this perfect simulation and then send out robots to purely observe and send back the data to you so you could experience it in a safe environment. And if that is true, and that very much could be because we're even headed that direction, it would make more sense on why we haven't directly interacted with anything outside of there, because it's purely observation. And since they're wanting to experience it at its fullest, they choose not to interact because that would change the outcome of the simulation.
So you're saying UFOs are just reconnaissance for advanced virtual reality?
Possibly, yeah.
I sometimes wonder if UFOs are not time-traveling tourists.
Oh, yeah, that also could be.
I've always wondered, when I was a kid, the spinning, I'm like, what if that thing is spinning at, a speed faster than the speed of light? Would that somehow send it back in space, back in time? TARDIS, yeah. You were on the subject of something right before you mentioned that.
Which one? Who? Me?
I think so. When do you got? I'm just trying to jog my memory. It happens all the time. Yeah, virtual reality. So, because I've heard about that too, and I've always thought about Dyson spheres and Dyson swarms and things like that. And I thought, why wouldn't a species like you said that it's like put yourself in a simulation instead of living out life or whatever, you could easily, set up a Dyson swarm around the sun, be absorbing that for all of your energy, and then your simulation and all your consciousness is inside this Dyson swarm. And unless somebody's got a really good telescope where they come into your solar system, they really don't know you're there because you're orbiting the sun. It's so close, you really can't tell.
Yeah, and just like there's so many arguments to be made for that theory because, like, for instance, like when you perceive from just from your brain standpoint, like when you dream, you can have a dream that lasts days, weeks, months because it's all up here. But you get to experience that at its fullest. But if you're able to tap into that on a computer level, you essentially could live 100 lifetimes in a standard carbon-based life form's life and get to do all of those experiences without ever breaking away from the safety of your pod. It's a solid argument that I could easily see working. Like, I know for me, if I could have a VR rig where I could just tune out, have a tube and feed me, but like I can taste everything. Yeah, no, I would be in a box. I already live in like a little box.
The Matrix is what you're asking for. You're looking for the Matrix.
Yes. I would be 100% cool with the Matrix, especially if I knew I was
human
in
battery.
The Matrix.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You choose
Cheat code turned on.
But I think that's the point of the Matrix. I think that's the point of the movie is they didn't have the choice. You have the choice, then you got the freedom to choose whether or not you want to be in the Matrix.
See, I'm even cool with it if I don't know too, though. Like, let's be real. Like, if tomorrow I wake up in a pod in the middle of in the middle of that scene, I'm gonna look around and I'm just gonna lay back down. Like, just put me back in. Like, erase this.
I would like money and superpowers, and I'm fine with it.
That would be dope, but or this.
Cheat
this. I'm
codes.
cool with this.
Yeah,
Low
does the Matrix
standards.
have cheat codes?
Back, up, left, right.
right, left, up, down, AB square, start, select. What is it?
That wasn't quite it.
I'm dyslexic.
I was
whatever.
close. That was close though. Wow, we really
Trailed.
Yeah,
we hit quite a few topics in there.
kind of hit exactly what we needed. We went to space. We talked about what we wanted to do in space. And then, of course, we kind of, glistened on what we would like to see in space. So, technically, we kind of hit it all. We kind of explored the vast expanse of space. The real question is, gentlemen, if, let's say, tomorrow, they were like, hey, we got everything set up on Mars. We've got housing, food set up, everything. We got your apartment ready to go. We just need you. It's going to take a 3-month-long process, but we'll get you there. Would you do it?
Yes.
What you said was too easy. I don't want it to be that easy. I want to go there when they're still. I want to go there when they're still colonizing this.
Well, I didn't say they were going to do all of Mars.
I want some 3-month journey. I want to take 2 years to get there. I want this to be like. I want this to be like I can brag to my grandchildren. Be like I crossed it. Like my ancestor from Germany could come back here and be like, you little shit. I came across the Atlantic so you can have a good life in this country. And I'm like, thank you, sir. Ours. And be like to tell my grandkids, be like, I traveled 2 years to get here. I fought off, I breathed in red Martian dust. I had to build with my bare hands where I lived. I dug it out of the ground. I want to be able to say that. That would be great.
So what you're saying is you want to be a Mars boomer?
I want to go to Mars. Yeah. I the second they could do it, I'm going. I want to go. If I can afford it, I'm going.
I don't know. Elon Musk is, setting up that indentured servitude.
Exactly.
The work program.
Yeah, I don't know.
Don't you want to work for him? You can't come home. That's it. You go to Mars.
You can come home once you pay off your debt.
Yeah. After you build his giant super next gen satellite self-driving car.
Get your ass to Mars.
That's a whole nother episode, though.
It is.
I'm totally not trusting the guy. I'm totally not trusting the guy from the country with apartheid, on indentured servitude here. So,
yeah. Hey, it's what we do today. It's called indentured servitude, but you go out and you try to live. It is what it is. I don't even know how to wrap this episode up. At this point, I'm just like
sandwich it.
Sandwich it.
Yeah, Larry.
Sandwiches.
Literally talk about that.
So we took our subject, we took Travis, and then he smushed our brains with Wikipedia knowledge. And then, of course, we added our own spices, and it became a sandwich of conspiracy people at this point. Science fiction enthusiasts. So for this episode, we pretty much made our own sandwich of information. And I feel like the real thing holding it together is the Wikipedia. The Wikipedia is the bread. We took a little lettuce from the knowledge of knowing that astronauts can pretty much do whatever they want. They can bring whatever they want. They can do pretty much whatever they want. And then we took our weird kind of conspiracy theories, sprinkled that on there. Little roast beef. Thank you, of knowledge.
Roast beef.
Corned
I
beef.
like roast beef. It's delicious.
Damn it, corned beef
Is it easier to
sandwiches.
Corned beef.
Corned beef.
It's corned beef and sauerkraut and bread, man.
Technically,
And just like
corned beef sandwiches, rye bread, Russian dressing, dill pickle relish, sauerkraut, and then Swiss cheese. Kind of depends on who makes it.
wait a minute, Russian dressing?
Yes.
Here's another conspiracy.
Oh no!
Uh-oh, we have Russian dressing going up on an American Gemini mission.
Hey, if you
Russians are in
wanted,
everything,
to go into space in the past 10 to 15 years, and you didn't have the money or the degree to be a astronaut, you pretty much had to go to Russia and be like, "Hey, I want to go up there," and they're like, "You have money? Oh, okay,
Well,
come
once
on."
we scrapped our space shuttle program, we had to go crawling out to Russia.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's our tribute to Russia. The wink of Russian dressing on that corned beef sandwich.
Thanks, Roscosmos.
Thank you, brothers. We wear the red for you. But I mean, we pretty much did wrap it up. We made a sandwich. Travis came in with his beautiful information. I love that you like to dive down that rabbit hole as far as you can, and then you're like, "Oh, I should wake up and I should be human for a little bit. I'm gonna put this down." But honestly, I don't. So let us thank Travis Buck for coming onto the show and giving us a little bit of insight into how Wikipedia can really help us out. And Travis, do you have any social media platforms that you like to promote yourself on?
Not really. Just kind of a nerd who likes to research things.
If people want to see your work, where should they go? Maybe like a certain news station?
Yeah, they could tune into ABC 17 in Columbia because I make commercials. But yeah, that doesn't really have to do with space.
Nope. But you know what?
If you feel like
People can still see your work.
if you feel like remembering my name for some crazy reason, I am working on a novel that I might actually finish.
Well,
And
that would be cool.
It's about medieval history, or not about medieval history. It takes place in medieval, but yeah. So
No,
that would
yeah,
be cool.
no,
but I don't know if I will ever have to.
Finish up your book, and we'll get you back on the show to talk about your book. See, there you go. We
I would
should.
love to talk more weird history stories because I'd love to talk more like medieval history stories because I got plenty of those too. We talked a lot of space this time, so
We did. I know. History is Travis's forte, so we will get you back on the show. But let's take a quick break, and we'll see you guys in a second. Well, coming back from that break, I realized there was a lot to process. Between our weird fascination with throwing and shooting stuff through space and falling through the Wikipedia hole.
Yeah. We went so many places. And not just, and mostly in space, but basically we learned the story of the astronauts that took a corned beef sandwich and smuggled it onto the shuttle, and the only reason they even found out about it was because the crumbs were everywhere. And so we also tried to learn, well, what kind of sandwich could we take into space? Or what kinds of things would we want to do in space? What could you smuggle onto it? What would you want to smuggle onto a spaceship that is meaningful to you in some way? And Travis had some really interesting insights into these different places we went with physics and another weird story about something that happened in space and it has to do with golf that was really interesting and kind of sent us on a path of figuring out, well, what kinds of other things would be really cool. And we hit on billiards and archery and just seeing what happens when you try to launch something at the Earth from the moon, and how far can it get before it burns up. It was all really, really interesting. I'm kind of surprised we didn't talk about a flying spaghetti monster, because we know that the flying spaghetti monster is a thing that people believe in, and so that's technically food that's out floating in space, right? So what's to say that there isn't a corned beef sandwich that's sentient and maybe benevolent or malevolent and just watching over us and wants to spread its loving sauerkraut just all over the Earth?
So I'm going to stop you there.
Thank you.
It's getting a little weird. I think what we really got from this episode is it's okay to have fun. And I think a lot of us really, sometimes we like to dig deeper into our thoughts and dig deeper into concepts and play with ideas. And it's really fun just to have a good time and spiral down Wikipedia. I think it was a really just enjoyable, sit back, have some fun, hypothesize some ideas and question some things like, what would we do if we could go? So what would we do if we could take our first time in space and we could be the first to do something? So really, I think it was just about being fun. And I think our audience should come away with it kind of thinking about, really just have fun with it.
I mean, literally, if you think about it, we all want to go and, like you said, have fun in somewhere we've never been. Because how many of us here can just sit there and be like, oh yeah, in the next 10, 15 years, I'll be up in space. It's nothing big. I go up there every Tuesday, Wednesday, I forget. And, I'm up there all the time. We don't know what it's like up there. We, as a species, enjoy having fun, celebrating different discoveries with each other. So literally, we want to go somewhere else. Have some more fun. See what we can get away with. And we're literally somehow cordoned off from the galaxy. It's like, they don't want us. They don't want us to go out in space.
Are you saying that we're literally in quarantine from the rest of the galaxy?
The Earth is literally under quarantine. So wear your mask.
Getting deep there.
Well, anywho, if you guys would like to check us out, we're on YouTube, Amusing Minds. You can comment, subscribe if you're feeling froggy. Your choice. Your choice. Because you know what? It's all about choice. You could go to Facebook and say hi to us there, or you could go to anchor.fm. Leave us a voice message. Maybe we'll respond back to it. Maybe. It's a possibility. Anyway, thank you guys for listening or watching, and we'll see you next time in our next episode when we are interviewing who, Ben?
We're interviewing Adam Simmons about online discussions.
Ooh. Let's discuss that next time.